Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Blockrunner MetaZone, Rovi, and MScribe, and today we're going to be talking about Bitminer. Finally. It's here, dude.
The FOXXI-verse, dude, is approaching. A lot of things are happening, dude. So, exciting times. You know, things going on beyond Bitcoin in the fractal space, but there's a lot of things happening here. Whatever, dude. Snooze, ruse, blues, clues, whatever, dude.
Dude, that's perfect. Snooze and ruse.
Or
Valhalla.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a word that rhymes like that, but like it could still be like
cruise.
Cruise your way.
Everybody's cruising on a Lambo in fractal land.
You're cruising to millionaire status. So
yeah.
So that's what's happening beyond the bounds of Bitcoin, right? But there's a lot of shit happening on Bitcoin layer 1. You don't want to forget about that, right? Really? I feel like it's a bad idea to completely forget about a $1 trillion ecosystem. You know?
I agree. Sounds reasonable, dude.
But hey, some people, that's their prerogatives are their own, right? Whatever. So that's not what we're talking about here. So if there's a $1 trillion ecosystem in development, like what are the things to pay attention to, right? So Nicola, shout out to him. And
dude, great tweet, dude. It says the next big thing is coming, not from the next shiny thing you chase, but from one of those older projects or protocols.
Damn.
That you are fading.
Yeah.
Study DMT, study Bitmap, study gaming projects and IPs. Yeah. Utility is real. Real developments take real time.
How's it feel to be called old, dude?
I know, right? You spend just 6 to 8 months building a protocol, and all of a sudden you're old.
Dude, we're one of the older ones, dude. Fuck, I could feel the, the need for lubrication in my joints and such. Because I mean, protocols spin up every week, right? So
right.
DMT is now categorized in the olden days, dude. It's like, remember that old DMT thing?
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't fade it, right? Because actually things have been developing along the way, right? For Bitmap, for DMT, and specifically this gaming aspect related to the whole ecosystem, right? Which FOXXI is showcasing.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So I agree. We totally agree with this thesis, this sentiment. So yeah, let's talk about the Bitminer, dude, because there's a big event occurring in the next couple of days.
Yeah, so Kimmy, he's coming in with the tweet. Says tap upgrade is live, block 861576. We just experienced that. It was quite hectic.
That happened this morning.
It sure did. Triggering all the latest tap protocol updates, which include DMT Bitmap block drops support.
Yeah.
BRC20 ticker reservation, full ticker range support, 1 to 32. And fields 4 and 10 index. So that's block height and nonce.
Yeah, so if you don't understand why that's important, part of the NAT framework is being able to reference patterns that exist on Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to do that is to register them as element inscriptions that function as pointers that, an indexer can kind of retrieve the existence of these patterns from on-chain data, right? So for the last 8 or 9 months, we've been kind of referencing the bits field to generate this like non-arbitrary substance class. But yeah, literally from like this morning, now we've got 2 whole new data fields to kind of tinker around with, which is, I don't know if it's like well understood how cool that is because it's like unlocked several new properties. It's
the coolest thing happening on Bitcoin for sure.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy actually. So block drops are cool. New fields are cool. And yeah, here comes FOXXI swooping in with like, all right, field 4 sounds pretty cool, right? What is that field? The block height field?
The block height, correct.
A new property unlocked of that is like a much more flexible, dynamic asset propagation ability, right? That's still rooted to the non-arbitrary properties of Bitcoin itself. So in this case, what is the pattern that they've kind of utilized?
The pattern is specifically 99 with a $sign. So in regex terms, that means any number that ends with a 99. So in since we're talking about field 4, which is the block height, if you have a block number that ends with a 99, that's a Bitminer.
Okay, sick. So yeah, see if we can find that block drop post. There's a little graphic that we came up with over the weekend to try. And like kind of easily
let me find it.
Easily paint the picture, just in like one cohesive image of like what do block drops actually do. I think it's a good little reference image or graphic that we can kind of similarly paint the picture of like having these new patterns within the block height, which we're looking for. It's not on any. You have to like actually find it on. It's on the Blockrunner Twitter page.
Oh, okay. Let me
just pull that up real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look at this image just so we can kind of explain it. So you guys, who are maybe not haven't been exposed to DMT much, you don't really understand what the patterns do and what that introduces for NATs. There it is.
Here we go.
All right, so you were talking about what was it, 99? So that's not included in this image, but imagine it was 5.5.
Imagine it was 5.5. Yeah, exactly. So the only thing here is that we have Bitcoin blocks.
Yeah.
And then we have a Bitmap layer. This could also be a UNAT layer, right? So those are two separate, distinct kind of ecosystems, right? And so that 99, if it occurs, that means that you get a Bitminer in that block. And so what does that mean? So that means that roughly the pattern 99 occurs, give or take, once a day.
Yeah.
And so now we have roughly 8,500 Bitminers.
Yeah. So per this deployment that is already deployed over the last 15 years, that's the non-arbitrary currently existing supply, right? Roughly 8,000 or so.
Yeah, here it is, Bitminer, and it's using FOXXI $99 4 element.
There it is. So this is the first time we're seeing like a non-11 element non-arbitrary token, right? So this is a big deal. This is what we're talking about. We've introduced some new dynamic ability, because if you're only leveraging the bits field, you're kind of stuck with this reality of the difficulty adjustment property, which is like every 2 weeks is a new possible pattern existence, right? Instead of like every day, like a new pattern could register, could exist. And therefore you're now able to produce this digital matter on a daily basis.
Yeah, and so they just chose this pattern because they like the idea of a Bitminer, which is a mining rig occurring once a day, non-arbitrarily. Right, yeah. But they could have picked another pattern that only has like 1,000 supply, or just any other pattern in field 4, which gives you the range to decide, I want it to occur once a day or once a week, or I want 1,000 supply. So you just pick.
Yeah, exactly.
You pick a pattern that fits with what you're trying to do.
100%. Yeah,
or 100 supply or 10 supply. I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah, I think this fits in with like the Bitmap ecosystem, because Bitmap, don't forget, is also like a non-arbitrarily expanding ecosystem. Every day 144 bitmaps are generated, right? So that's going to propagate into the future so long as Bitcoin persists. So it's a pretty good alignment I guess design, right? As bitmaps expand, one new Bitminer is introduced daily to kind of supply that expanding metaverse ecosystem, right? And that economy that goes along with it.
Yeah. So what exactly does a Bitminer look like? And so this is exactly what you're going to be minting. And it's this device here that is actually mining tokens. And so this is just kind of like the visual representation of that. And what's cool about this is that it's sort of like it's leveraging what MDV did with DMT vessels, where the inscription actually has a trait associated with the inscription ID itself. And so if you have a particular pattern with that inscription ID, you get a certain look of your Bitminer.
Interesting. So that means it's not predictable like pre-launch, like what
exactly?
What are the rarities going to be, right? So that's been issues with other, I guess, earlier day DMT deployments, right? It's like you can kind of like through the act of minting kind of understand like a rarity scheme along the way, and then like pick your blocks according to that. So you can't really do that in this case.
Correct. You can't.
Okay. So yeah, rarity has big implications here, because it's not just like
not the look,
not just the look. There's actual functionality that is going to contribute to your extraction rate, right?
Yeah. So next tweet from FOXXI, Bitminer mint is on mScribe on September 18th. The big day is coming. So at 2 p.m. there's going to be a guaranteed mint for people on the whitelist, and then it's first come first serve 1 hour later. So you got to pay attention. So 2 p.m. UTC is 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern. And so I guess a lot of people are going to be waking up or going to sleep by that time.
That's right. So what do you think? Okay, so this is it. This is the schedule. So on the 17th, again, claim your pre-sold claims. I think roughly 1,500 or so are pre-sold. Yeah,
so there have been miners that have already been pre-sold. So the pre-sold claim is going to happen on the 17th, so the day before. So if you already have like a pre-sale of a Bitminer, come the day before to claim your asset.
Yeah, it's going to function like any other block pad, right? Where it's like there's going to be a block height, and people are going to probably load into this lobby, right? Waiting for this block height to hit.
Correct.
And then once it does, you're gonna enter into a multiplayer shared 2D environment where you can claim your blocks at will, basically. So you're gonna be able to decide which of these blocks are actually gonna be yours, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna show you what that looks like here in a little bit. But first, let's actually see some, what is this, like some in-world footage?
Yeah, so this is in-world. Let me play this. I'm going to turn off the sound because it's not necessary. But
yeah, who wants to hear us? This is us playing like a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So
actually in the
that's
FOXXIverse.
The Bitminer right there. It's operating.
It's fucking massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big boy, dude. And it's doing hard work. Like as you're in there, so this is another multiplayer environment, right?
Yeah.
Connected to the Bitmap ecosystem. So this is the utility of the Bitminer, right? Is to have this thing as a functional deployable asset in the metaverse, which not too many people understand the implications of that because it's pretty difficult to pull off. There's a lot of development that goes into this.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like deploying a typical JPEG where it's like, I mean, there's a lot of work. We're starting to learn firsthand, like the hard work of creating unique art is like no joke.
Yeah.
Right? But we've always understood the context of developing metaverse native apps. Like that's
Correct.
been our bread and butter, and that is also a ton of work, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we're talking about like actual app development that is functioning within a metaverse environment.
Correct.
Right. So this is like a very uncommon like understanding of like how we think the metaverse is going to be sustainable, but this is going to be one of the foundational pieces is this app development and ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. So if you have any experience with like playing video games, specifically MMORPGs, like we have, just imagine those days and like some of the critical components of that, like digital economy. Imagine if there was some mechanism, some framework where you can essentially tokenize the services being like implemented within those game economies.
Yeah.
And tokenize that, and now you have community ownership of that. Right. That introduces all kinds of new vectors of utility, potential passive revenue opportunities, all kinds of stuff, right? Which is why this is like our main heavy focus of development, because these are the primitives that are going to unlock actual economic activity and sustainable activity.
Yeah, and then just like ecosystem alignment, right? The landowners are aligned, the app developers are aligned, the players have stuff to interact with and do.
Yeah.
Right? It's a whole thing.
Yeah, so for the bitmappers out there, I mean, this is an exciting like new paradigm right now. Like the bitmaps, as we've all kind of known from the beginning, it's like an open canvas of like potential utility, right? I could do so many things on a bitmap, you know, and that's been experimented on over the last year or so.
Yeah.
But now there's like an actual potential to inject like applications and things that actually do something useful for other users, right? Who don't, you know.
So what kind of applications, man? So the answer is all kinds of applications. Everything that you've interact with on the internet, that can be an app that's deployable on a land.
Correct. So yeah, that's not to say the only app that will exist is a miner device, right?
That's literally everything. DeFi, gaming, pet projects.
Correct.
I mean, everything.
Yeah, so this is like the new class I think that's people need to start paying more attention to, right? We gave it a name. It's called Metis, Metaverse Enabled Tokenized Apps. This is like the very beginning stages of like building out a new primitive layer on top of Bitmap, which is the application layer, right? That is the most important stuff, even in context of the internet, right? That's the stuff that gets us actually engaged and retains our interest on a daily basis, right? It's the apps of the internet.
Of course, yeah. It's worth trillions of dollars.
Those apps?
Those apps.
That's right. Yeah, without them, we're just going to, what do you call those? GeoCities?
Yeah.
Those websites that just, you know.
Yeah, look like static.
Kind of like flash at you.
Yeah.
Things move around and such, but there's no real function there.
Yeah.
There's nothing really there to like improve my existence in any way, right?
Right.
But so that's the state of the metaverse today, and even more so Bitmap, right? You enter any like Bitmap ecosystem, it's a lot of stuff just kind of like flashing at you or just...
It's pretty static.
Yeah. But yeah, now let's bring some apps, dude.
Yeah. So going back to kind of the rarity rankings as far as like the inscription IDs go, it's like, here's just an example. It's like the patterns that could exist on just the inscription ID include the common, we have the uncommon 25%, rare, super rare, epic, legendary, mythic,
Damn.
and
Ultra
mythic,
mythic. Cosmic.
Yeah.
I guess that's the end. Yeah, that was like 7 or 8 different like layers of rarity.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And these are all non-arbitrary. It's not as if they just picked where the rarities are. It's just like, here's the chances that you're going to get a common. It's 40% chance.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And then a cosmic is a 1% chance. But if you get a cosmic mint, like, that's huge.
That is pretty cool.
And nobody knows what they're going to get until the mint actually occurs, because it's the pattern's in the inscription ID.
Yeah, so like we said before, it's not just an aesthetic like flex if you end up having one of these super rare miners, right? Which it's also like a functional, potentially like a functional value add to like your miner rate. So this
and then imagine block drops to this thing, dude.
Yeah.
It's like what could they do with block drops? They could append, GLB models and make your Bitminer look just much cooler. Or you can append upgrades to a Bitminer. All of a sudden it's mining more at a faster rate. Right?
Absolutely.
You can do pretty much anything.
Yeah, like a little battery pack.
Yeah.
Or battery, like what did you call that? They said there's like they're like mobilizing fusion energy.
Yeah, they are.
Like in the real world.
For reals.
Like they're putting like fusion reactors into 18-wheelers.
18-wheelers and rocket ships and homes.
That's crazy. So why not like slap a fusion reactor?
Why not?
As a block drop to these things. That's pretty cool. That's a cool little concept design, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Let's move on. Let's see.
So just to kind of design the kind of layout of the phases, the 17th is the pre-sale. The 18th is limited to 3. The 18th could be limited to 5 or unlimited, just depends. And then on the 19th is going to be unlimited. So pre-sales is free on mScribe. It's going to be $75 for the guaranteed first come first service, 75, and then on the 19th is 85. I feel like it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, so the 17th, if you guys have already claimed your pre-sale, definitely hop in the Discord and stuff so you know exactly how to engage and interact with the interface, or definitely consume this guide. It walks through how do you actually interact with the block pad on mScribe. Yeah. And there is a little bit of a new tweak as far as like a minting experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so if you haven't minted on mScribe before, you're in for a treat.
I would say so.
Yeah, this is unlike any other minting experience you've had in crypto.
Yeah, it's
100%. An actual battle, right? So you're going to jump into, just pretend this is a Bitminer here, but you're going to jump in with others in real time, and you're going to get to see them mint these squares in real time.
It's right there. You can see how that looks.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the beginning of it's like we were talking about a block height countdown. We'll all be in the lobby waiting for this this opening, and then once the block hits,
it's like a petri dish, just like forming these like
colonies,
this life.
That's how it looks. So if you could like really zoom out, it would literally look like a petri dish of like some new organism on the internet, kind of like self-assembling into almost like a material state, dude.
Yeah.
Almost, right? Digital matter might actually be like what we're witnessing here.
It's your cool, biology degree is finally useful, dude.
I wouldn't say all that yet, dude. But it's definitely cool, right? Can't you understand now why I was gravitated by the micro world?
I get it. I didn't before, but it makes sense now.
Yeah, you actually get to like look in there, dude. It's like, whoa, dude. Like there's things happening in this like invisible world.
I've always thought that was cool. Yeah. I didn't know like how useful it was,
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about useful applications of like my curiosity. I just wanted to like just look in there, dude. It's like, whoa, what are they up to?
Yeah.
These little bacteria.
It is interesting that there's like a lot of action happening in such a tiny amount of space, right?
Exactly. So we've kind of like traversed that into the digital matter space, right? So that's what's happening. It's going to be a block. We call this the block pad. There's going to be multiple phases on the 17th. It'll probably be like just the claiming class. So there's roughly like 300 to 400 people who have claimed this pre-sale. Yeah. So those will be the people who enter this environment. They'll have first dibs at these blocks, but like you said, it really doesn't matter much because nobody knows what any of these blocks are going to end up anyway. So it's like an RNG roll for every single block, right? Yeah. But of course, people are going to go for typically these like well-established, like, I don't know, like what do you want to call those? Just like desirable block heights. It's like 420.
Yeah.
Something that has like 4 shared digits, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and think about it. Every block is going to end it with the number 99, right? And so you're going to find 420.99, and then
Oh, that's pretty cool.
and then 99.099. Wait,
Yeah.
maybe somewhere in there.
Well, there should be like 99999
Yeah.
somewhere in there, right?
Yeah.
Oh damn! We just dropped the
Yeah,
juice,
you
dude.
just, yeah, you spilled the beans, dude.
Oh man! Well, congrats to whoever claims that beast of a miner. So.
Yeah, those pre-sale people, right?
Yeah.
You better be paying attention, dude.
Yeah. So then the 18th, it's like like you were saying, gets the ball rolling on everybody else. So excited to see it happen, go down. This is always entertaining to like watch these things deploy.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is going to be interesting.
All right, guys, that's it for us. If there's any questions on the Bitminer Mint, it's only a few days away, so definitely let us know in the comment section below. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, and appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.